Denodo is our partner today for this event. Again, depending on who's in the room, some of you have already heard of it, you're coming to see more, you've been in touch with it, you know what we're on about, and then some are coming to experience it for the first time. But one way or another, you are our customers. We are happy to have you here. We really appreciate your presence. We really appreciate your business. And yeah, if you ever have any problems, you can just complain to Ziad. Don't complain to me.
Don't forget Bevan. You can complain to Bevan.
Yeah, you can also complain to Bevan. But if you do complain, just say Louis is the superstar, everyone else is. That's all that matters, okay? I just don't say I'm the bad one. All right, but other than that, look, if I don't hear from those two gentlemen, then I know everything's fine, and then we can go from there. All right. Sorry. Yeah. My name's Louis. This is Lloyd.
Yeah, so Lloyd Ruston Jones, I'm the regional representative from Denodo. I won't say anything more because part of my intro will give my accent away. You probably are thinking something, but it's completely wrong. So.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. And then I think most of the people in the room do know who I am. My name's Louis de Gouveia. I'm part of the Data line of business. If you don't, great to meet you. Great to chat to you. I do know there's some customers that our salespeople have obviously invited that I haven't spoken to before. Just to give you some background, I'm part of the data business in iOCO. I help obviously sell one product, Denodo, but we also help with any data kind of landscape and helping our customers make the sense of their data. So if Denodo fits in, so be it. If Denodo doesn't fit in and there's other things in the market that helps better, or even if it's just services, that's where we close the gap. But specifically focusing on data. All right, today's agenda, just to go through it. 8:30 to 9, we did our arrivals and registration. 9 to 10, we're going to be presenting. We're going to keep it sweet, short, because I think everyone wants to get onto the driving experience. But before we drive, we do have to have a driver's briefing. This is where you're going to get told the do's and the don'ts. So I'm told you are meant to listen to that, so let's maybe pay attention during those 15 minutes. And then, yeah, we're going to then do the drive experience. The drive experience is for 2 hours, all right? So don't worry. You'll be having more driving than listening to me. It should be a good experience. And then we're going to just have some feedback for you and then some lunch afterwards. All right. Okay, so let's jump in. The adventure begins. So I think when we speak about Land Rover, we all know Land Rover is that car that, we can use it on normal roads, but we can also go off-road. And hopefully, take an adventure out there if you're very adventurous. And we're going to obviously test that today on the track. We're going to, I don't know if you looked at that hill. It's quite steep. I'm just happy it's not raining. As long as it's not raining, I think we can make it up there. If it's raining, I think I might have swapped the driver. Okay, but anyway, that's the adventure, and this is what we had to test today. What we are also to say is we do believe Denodo can be, and specifically data virtualization. Let's not always just say Denodo. The topic, data virtualization, we do think this is something that can help you wrangle your data, bring that data together, really a rugged tool that can do a lot of things. When I say rugged, we can use this as a new way of doing data management, bringing that data together, making it available. I'm not talking about doing a one-year project of data warehousing, then doing the tooling. I'm just talking about something that we can put down, integrate across multiple sets of data, and make it available pretty fast. Okay. All right, if we look at the off-road capabilities of Denodo, it is a really versatile tool in the sense that it's an agile tool. We can install it. It's quick to install. I'm not talking about an SAP implementation of 3 months installing, 3 months of configuring. It's literally a 2-day installation. We even have Warwick here. They can tell us how quick we installed the POC. We didn't actually do the installation. We just watched them do it and told them what to click. All right. So if you don't believe me, ask him afterwards. We didn't do the installation. We said, Warwick, just click next. Him and the Stanbank team, they did it. And can I be honest why? Because to get access into Stanbank would have taken longer than the installation. All right, as simple as that. Okay, so I think you can be also happy if you do bank with Standard Bank,
yes,
that your money's safe because they want us to help them, but they don't want us in their systems. All right, so I think your money's safe. All right, but anyway, super agile, flexible to install, efficient, easy to use, can connect to multiple sources like you can see here at the bottom. And again, we're not actually moving the data. All right, so it's very rugged in the sense that we can connect to the data, model the data, expose it, and make it available. All right, and we obviously have caching features and a whole bunch of things that we can make that experience quick. A little bit more on the off-road capabilities where we see popular usage from our customers. Again, we know a lot of our customers have data on-premise. The new challenge we're finding with our customers is they're saying, we need to go cloud. It's like, okay, yeah, we can go cloud, but we bring in a new challenge of, instead of having one data warehouse, they've got one in there, one there, one there, all over the show. And this is a real problem. And with this one solution, we can actually combine all of the data and just feed it. From a customer's perspective, your end user's perspective, when they want to report off of it, they don't need to worry about, I need this data, let me go to AWS. I need that data, let me go to Azure. Or I need this data, it's actually still on-premise. All right. We provide one layer, they go access the data. This one layer that I'm talking about, we like to call it a data marketplace. It's a layer where you can go, just choose the data you want and use it. We talk about self-service a lot. And in the past, a lot of other tools have talked about self-service. Problem with self-service is, like, whether it's Tableau, Click, or whatever, they kind of say, all right, let's plug in, we use it, get a few tables, combine it. That part where you say get a few tables and combine, you've already lost your customer. Because a data warehouse has always got a Ralph Kimball methodology or third normal form or something like that. As soon as you say those words again, you've lost your end user reporting. And this is where data virtualization is different. All of that modeling is done by someone else, and when someone connects to the data marketplace, they just see one model, whether it be home loans, whether it be sales, whether it be purchasing, that one model, and it will connect to all the various data sets. They don't need to worry about it. Okay. This is just to give you an example of, again, some of the off-road capabilities if we want to talk about that. And this is a real use case, to give you an example. We do have a customer, it's actually part of one of our case studies, where they're using Denodo over there to connect to stuff in AWS, to connect to data on-premise, and to connect to data in Salesforce. And again, not moving the data, not doing anything. What they do is, and the only reason they do this is because they're traditionally an on-premise customer moving to the cloud. So again, we're making moving to the cloud easy, because all this reports will come through this layer. That layer will then worry about, okay, I need 2 tables from Salesforce, I need 2 tables from Redshift, 1 from DynamoDB, 1 from here, and then you got your complete data set. I know this might sound a bit crazy, but believe it or not, the larger the organization, the more of these databases you have. And even if you're in a small organization, trust me, everyone's got their anthill, and no one wants to give it up. All right, so we're just showing you how we can say, everyone can keep their anthill. We can help you still make that one thin glass of pane or data marketplace where everyone can connect and see that data.
I mean, if I can just make a point there, I mean,
Yeah.
A lot of customers talk about legacy to modernization, right? To a large extent, I mean, if you look at this data virtualization position, it's almost taking all of that back-end stuff, creating a much better front end and moving it forward. So in reality, this is almost starting to create that seamless transition.
Yeah. All right. Okay, real-time navigation, again, one of the key capabilities of data virtualization. And again, data virtualization is a new topic. I'm not talking about VMware, so please scratch the VMware or VirtualBox out. This is literally connecting to data and has only to do with data, not virtualizing environments. And we basically virtual. But again, from a real-time navigation, again, when we're driving the cars today, when we put our foot down, we want it to accelerate. We want a response. Denodo gives you that in the sense that the data can be real-time or it can be cached. It's up to you. So if you want real-time, we can connect to real-time and bring that data to you real-time. If you're saying, no, the one system's a tier 1 system, I can't have you hitting that every second, we can cache it every once an hour and you get it. And again, we've got customers doing this against their tier 1 SAP ERP system, all right? Purely because they need data up to date. We cache every hour, and then they go from there as an example.
Yeah, so especially with SAP, and so when people are looking at the reports, get new customers coming in, and we do it every half an hour, so you get updated customers as well.
Correct.
So that it's real time.
Yep, it's real time as well. The thing with SAP is obviously if you still connect to a legacy SAP, it's the hurdle of getting across the app layer. if you know SAP very well. More new SAP installations, some of them will connect to SAP HANA, making life a bit simpler. But also on top of that, when we do drive, Land Rover, we obviously hoping it's secure. We're going to test those secure features today. I know you guys signed the indemnity form. I hope it works. I hope it is secure. I can tell you Denodo will be a little bit more secure in the sense that it does provide role-based access. Everything that goes through this layer, it has role-based, has security, has usernames, has passwords. And again, any data that we do compile in here, we've got that unified security layer, and we can also expose it anyway. So again, we can expose it via JDBC, ODBC, OData, API, all of that. The best part about this, one of our customers said, is they used to spend a few days developing an API off of all their data sets and making Swagger documentation. All right, with this, 3 clicks, it makes the API and the Swagger documentation. All right, so if you're tired of doing APIs and Swagger documentation, after you've done all your modeling or your data sets, we can help you with that. All right, it's usually makes it an easier purchase, especially when you're saying, I spent X amount of time doing it. But anyway, so that's just to give you an idea. And again, we can get structured, unstructured, all types of data. Seamless integration, we can integrate into nearly any environment. Like the Land Rover going from rough road to normal road, we can do the same. We can fit into any environment. We're not saying get rid of your current investment. We can fit in anywhere. And this is a very good example that Gartner's provided is, this is data virtualization, this little thin layer that we put in, and that thin layer can go over existing relational systems, or it can go over ODSs, or it can go over your data warehouse, your data lake, anything. And then from there, we're providing one unified layer. Because, and again, this is what we see at our customers. We'll go to a customer and they will have a Hadoop data lake in one side of the business. Then you'll have another side which has data warehouse, maybe on SQL, Exadata, whatever it may be. Then they'll have whatever systems here. We put this one thin layer here, and then you actually get access to all that. Because as an end user, it is the worst thing for you to say. You want access to the data, get a connection there. Oh, you want to also put that with your data, get a connection there. You've lost them. But also what happens is, from auditing access perspective, you now got to go audit all these systems rather than just auditing one layer. All right, just some benefits to be aware of. Okay, some case studies. I'm just going to give you some case studies or some customers, existing customers. I've actually got a success video. This one is SA Home Loans. All right, SA Home Loans, Durban customer. They make use of it, and they're actually the customer that I had the slide before where I said half the data is on premise, half the data is in the cloud. They doing this. They pulling data from Salesforce, AWS, on premise, and they're making one layer. Their BI tool is Tableau, but the point is their challenge was they're saying Tableau is great for self-service, but they had a problem telling their end users to say, if you want this data, connect to Salesforce. If you want this data, connect to AWS. If you want this, and we all know how our end users are. They don't just want one piece of data. They want 4 pieces of data to get this grand vision. And look, don't get me wrong, it helps them. But if you're the person who has to provide all the access and manage it, it does become painful. So we're saying we can use one solution. And this is what they do. I do have a success video here. I'll just play it quick.
We need to accurately represent data that is correct, that is timeless. The issues we have at the moment is business is at the mercy of IT to supply reports, extracts, to provide information and data to them. More often than not, it's a constant tug of war for priorities. As we know, IT are the gatekeepers. Data in itself is very sensitive. It needs to be curated. It needs to be trustworthy. That's what we aim to achieve using Denodo.
So as a supplier, we've obviously seen SA Home Loans being able to serve the data a lot more quicker to their customers. One of the best benefits that we've seen that they've also gotten is before they would have to code their APIs, and now not just serving the data, they're actually able with 3 clicks to expose data as APIs and get it to their end users.
So our journey in the last few years have been quite interesting. We understood that we wanted to give access to data in a secure and reliable way. and we looked at several options. Our interaction with one of our strategic partners, iOCO, was very fruitful in this sense. We reached out, they made a few recommendations, they took the time to listen to our requirements and challenges, and came up with a few proposals. During that process, one of the things we discussed is data virtualization, specifically Denodo, could potentially solve our problems. And from there, we've never looked back. It's been a partnership that we've appreciated and valued a lot.
SA Home Loans at this point are going through a modernization of the technology stack, and Denodo plays an immense role in that journey.
Data virtualization, integration layers, integration platforms is part of how we've solved that part. Being able to quickly model database and partners need, extract that information, provide access to that information in a secure way that doesn't expose us, or doesn't negate any of our governance. Is part and parcel of why we've chosen data virtualization, and more specifically Denodo.
Okay, I hope you guys liked the video. There's some people in the room that I'm expecting this video from. Blue logo. There's another one, tour vest that we're expecting. So, you know what we use it for. All right, another case study. You probably drink this juice every day if you drink some sort of fizzy juice. It's not Pepsi. All right, this customer doesn't like us talking about them. Penbev down in Cape Town. They use the solution quite a lot. We do have a success story. You can Google both these success stories. You can Google. It's on the internet. It's not a secret. It is available. Penbev specifically, we use that to connect to SAP, non-SAP systems, and we make that data available from that. All right. So that's just to give you an idea. Another use case where it's not cloud-based, but it's connecting to what's traditionally difficult to get data out of, SAP, plus a lot of homegrown systems and bringing that data together. And again, the data that we bring out, we can feed it to ODBCs, REST APIs. They actually use the data from there to feed another planning system, Cognos TM1, to feed that. So it doesn't always need to be just feed to reporting. We can actually feed to other systems, whether it be APIs, REST APIs, or it can just be your BI tool sitting over there. And you can see that there's the Cognos, but there's also Power BI that's running there in the environment. So yeah, it's just to give you an idea. All right, any questions before I hand over to Lloyd?
I was going to ask you about not just BI. So, if you can make REST APIs, you can build this quite quickly, you say. So you're feeding it to planning systems. Are they feeding it to any other production systems? Because not everything is live data. Some of it's customer portals. I'm assuming there are use cases around the world for that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah. There's lots of use. So Asko is sitting right next to you. He worked on Penbev specifically. Yeah. So I know they're feeding it to Cognos. What else are they feeding to?
They're feeding it to some of the supply systems also, and feeding the invoice information as well. So they got APIs already that already integrate between them, and they've also got something called data portals, which they integrate to as well. And they got rid of some of the integration tools.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
And they replaced it with Denodo, and they found it much easier to go through that path than to have someone, keep on, configuring
the integration there.
Yeah.
All right. The other one is SA Home Loans. SA Home Loans also feeds data outwards. They use it for a lot of internal reporting, but they also expose data outwards. You might be wondering how. I don't know if you've noticed with Capitec. If you go on Capitec, they offer home loans now. Traditionally, they never used to offer home loans. If you had to guess who's backing them and who's providing data, I think we can close the dots. Same with Discovery. Discovery also never used to provide home loans. Again, SA Home Loans is backing them on that. All right. And again, they're making use of this layer plus other stuff to expose that data in real time. Some in real time, some obviously once a day, and so on. So yeah, versatile tool. We're not saying we're going to come replace your BI tools, but we are saying if you're running around with 2 or 3 BI tools, instead of building the logic in your BI tools, put it in a layer like this. You're agnostic. You can use it for several things. Because I think that's what we see with a lot of our customers. And let's be honest, visualizations tools are like the flavor of the year. 1 year Click was was the flavor. After that was Power BI. Now it's Power BI, but there was Click, Tableau, and so on. Challenge with that is every time you're rebuilding the logic in those visualization layers. And then, if you want access to that report and you don't have that tool, it becomes a challenge. Whereas if we say, let's make a data marketplace, neutral data marketplace, you can connect with any tool if you wish. If you're an accountant, we do support Excel. All right. I know I'm not going to get rid of Excel, so I'd rather just make peace with it. If you want to connect, but at least we can provide the data, make it secure, make it easy to access. All right. Cool.
Okay, so probably a similar theme to Louis. We're going to do a bit of a driving theme. But actually, if you go on the Denodo website, you'll see something about fearless data. And marketeers, and sales, it's a kind of love-hate relationship. Because you go, fearless, what is fearless data? That's, but clearly we're trying to change mindset in the industry. And I'll come on to two things I want you to take away with. But I was thinking actually fearless is kind of bold, adventurous, daring, boastful. Can data be boastful? Or maybe with AI and everything else that's happening, actually maybe data is, a little bit more emotive. So the first thing I want you to come away with is an understanding of Denodo. So what's behind the meaning? So Denodo's a northern Spanish founded company. It was founded, and I'll come on to it, but it was founded in 1999. This is the meaning of Denodo. So it's a Spanish word, Galician word, and it means a good disposition. It means you'll get on with anything, regardless of fear or whatever else. And this is a key mindset when you're in the data industry, and we naturally want to collect data. So just keep that in mind around Denodo. The other thing that I've realized, so I've been in Denodo 4 years, the other thing I've realized is that all of our customers and prospects, the ones that are leading this, is that they think differently. And they're thinking not what can I do in the next 6 months or the next year, but what can I do in the next hour? And I'll come on to why I kind of think about what you can do about in the next hour, but actually on a daily basis, and how that can make a difference. And so the next slide is around my accent. So this is my car. What I did is I put into Apple Land Rover. And so I came up with these images. This is my dad. This is my G4. This is where Dad was born, in Gloucester. He lives in Zimbabwe. He's lived there for 60 years. Mine's the reverse. Sorry, I get emotional with it. Mine's the reverse because I was born in Zimbabwe and I live in the UK. So this is a hallucination, isn't it? This isn't a Land Rover, it's a Mazda that someone's put Land Rover on it. So I'm like, oh, brilliant. And there's my son. There's a friend, he's crashed into a wall in Derby. So something to think about when we're out there. This is my neighbor. My neighbor left the handbrake off on his car when we were going to go and play golf. His car miraculously went down the hill into the woods. I went to rescue him. My car is absolutely stuck. I've got a winch on the front. I'm self-rescuing myself and towing him out. My car is 3.5 ton. His is 3. The weight on the winch is 5 ton. Anyway, and obviously rugby is a massive, massive theme with Land Rover. So why every hour? So for the whole of May, every day I ran 5K, and I realized actually when you're running 5K, it started off, I was running it for about 50 minutes. Then eventually I got a little bit faster and I could do 5K in 30 minutes. But we were raising money for a friend. But actually this was over our house in May. So in the UK, we saw the Northern Lights. I went, wow, I didn't have to travel very far. Within an hour, I could see the Northern Lights. And it's all about how we access information more readily. This is me. I was running through the fields behind my house. This is my dog. I was thinking, wow, agility. What is agility? Here I am running. I have to run down here. Guess what? My dog's going everywhere. And I'm thinking, gosh, you're a piece of agility. But my mind, I have to run down here. And I think the farmer wouldn't be too happy if I ran anywhere else. I was thinking, you know, basic stuff around data, we try and, sometimes it's very complicated. But actually, I don't know if you know this, but if you turn your watch upside down, if you're in the UK, that is, you get the time in India. And it always works. And you think, wow, that's a bizarre phenomenon. There's obviously something about the British Empire and something, oh, well, let's make it easy. You know, what's the time? Is it gin and tonic time? But there was also other hidden things. This is a Seiko watch with a solar face. So actually, you know, maybe I'd never get lost. There is something you do to find out where north is, so I'd never get lost. I don't know if you know the analogy about NASA and they were trying to find a pen. Well, actually, this is a pencil. You know, some similar, simple things where you can get information, you can communicate more simply. So then I reflected on a customer. So Denodo principally is very easy, but actually it's really hard to communicate. So a customer we've got in the UK is a big government customer that happens to do tax, and they've been using Denodo for 4 years. They recently said, how do we change the mindset? And they said, can everyone that's got a report that's taking over 6 months bring it to the data team that's using Denodo? We'll deliver it in 24 hours. Now, the first report that came to them, they took 36 hours. A lot of that was kind of SAP issues or whatever. Can you access the data? But the mindset change is the key thing here. And in fact, you know, when you've got different stakeholders in a big organization, actually the cost of bringing that information together and the friction is, you know, there's a lot of money involved. You know, in this case it was pounds, but equally in US dollars, the cost of bringing just 4 data sets together in a traditional manner was going to cost them 4 million, and it would have taken ages. With Denodo, because they already had it in place, it took 15 minutes. I mean, it's just an incredible mindset change. And sorry, their strapline there is that. The key thing here is you've got to have it at an exec level. You know, it's not just about the data engineers. You've got to have this mindset of minimize movement, maximize value. So think about, why am I moving the data before you actually move it? There's cases. So this brought me to Denodo's story. So Denodo was founded in 1999, and it was principally founded. It was founded by Angel Viña. He gave his PhD student Alberto Pan a task to manage data in a better way. This is when Oracle was being replicated, and he said there's got to be an easier way and quicker way to access data. So Denodo is seen as the founding, or the founders, the founding fathers of data virtualization, and that concept didn't really take on because clearly there was more and more Oracle being used, more and more SAP and so forth. And it's probably only in the last 10 years, maybe even less, 6 years, that it's really started. People have realized with the data explosion, actually we can't keep replicating it, because not only is it increasing, but we're even increasing it more. And the thing that I find amazing about this story is Denodo only has one product. So for 25 years, it's not like an Oracle, and it hasn't been acquired by Oracle. And both Alberto and Angle are still there, and a number of others, and they're absolutely passionate that this is the right way to manage data. So some interesting facts about South Africa. For over 10 years, the JSE has used Denodo. All trades, all settlements go through Denodo, 100% accuracy, zero downtime. And these are amazing figures. I mean, this was presented by Chester 18 months ago in London. There's only 2 stock exchanges in the world that both trade and settle. The JSE is one, and the Canadian Stock Exchange is the other. So they're actually doing a number of things there. It's very rapid. So, you know, when we talk about performance and all the rest, what the JSE are doing with Denodo, they have to do, it's regulated, in sub 60 milliseconds. And some of the joins that they're pulling together and everything else is absolutely amazing. This kind of brings you to governance, risk, and all the rest, because actually, if you're trading, you need to make sure you get the stocks right. So this was the example Chester gave, where, you know, if you have a ticker system and someone has bought Apple, so this is the Apple ticker, and you happen to have someone with fat fingers that's entered the wrong one, you could end up selling the wrong stock and, of course, end up on the front pages. So it's actually used for the whole kind of governance of the data around the whole of the JSE. And then the other one, the other use case, which I think probably not as big as the JSE, but equally kind of just around your mindset, and that's multi-choice. So Lauren, she was at Alex Forbes. She knew Denodo was the right choice. She has a real kind of cultural battle within multi-choice around, you know, why Denodo is the right thing. You know, any of you who are subscribers to DSTV and what have you, you'll use, you know, your cell phone numbers and what have you. You know, this is it. Every month it took 3 to 4 days to go through the data. And by the time that they got to the information, it was already too old. And this was at a time during COVID. So when local and sport wasn't so relevant, people didn't want to watch local news, maybe, but they don't want to watch local news now. So they're switching to Netflix and other media types. So retention of customers was absolutely key. Getting information right was absolutely key. And this was kind of the headline after Denodo. So if you read that, it's, you know, it's, I mean, look at that. But one of the key things was it only takes 2 minutes to review the data at any time. So that's a significant, you know, that's less than an hour. But I mean, it just shows you, if you get the use case right in terms of what's the pain point, you can actually drive change in the organization and at a time when, crucially, it's important. And then there's the other aspect, which the softer bit is about people retention. Are you giving people skills that they feel, actually, I'm really happy with this, it's increasing my job satisfaction? Are people happy continually moving data, or the business asking IT for information? So, you know, the kind of things to go away with around Denodo is its commitment over 25 years is becoming more and more compelling in a disruptive world. Things are changing. You need to be more agile. You know, the technology is easy to understand. It's not, you know, you don't have to go to the market for Denodo skills. It's SQL, DBA skills, so it's easily transferable. And it's, you know, there's a whole thing around AI, but actually, you know, going back to the first picture about the Land Rover, if you got the data wrong, you suddenly sold a Mazda with a Land Rover badge, and people feel that they've been betrayed. I'm not going to go through how it works. That's Louis, and actually you need more than an hour, but that's kind of the flow of it. So the key kind of concepts here are, it's the mindset. It's having this kind of Denodo theme. Embrace it. Embrace the fact actually that data is everywhere. Don't feel you have to hoard it. Just go, that's okay. I only need the data when I have a question that I need answering. And it's a logical approach to it. So sometimes the key is, do I understand where all my data is? Have I got a schema to it? And that's the kind of principle behind Denodo, and that's the kind of performance piece as well. If you've got an area which is a bottleneck for your data, Denodo kind of works that out. It's got this optimization engine that's been built over 25 years. And the key is, around the trust, trust of data. So one of the Caterpillar is another of our customers, and going back to that theme of running every day for 5K. So at the end of a month, I've did 155 kilometers. If someone said, "Can you run 155 kilometers?" No way, but you can do it if you do it gradually. So take small steps. Think about where in the business there's change, drive it, and the key is keep the commitment there, because it absolutely makes sense. And there we go. Why change your mindset unless you have Denodo? Thank you.
If I could really just make one comment. I think for me the really nice thing to see is the customer centricity coming through. And I think, Louis, you highlighted the point when you spoke around multiple interfaces and customers having to go to multiple places to find stuff. If we look at the trends in technology and innovation and where we're actually going, it's to try and create that seamless environment that makes it easy for your customer, right? Or your user, depending on who your customer is. And that personalization is the key battle in the next phase of technology. So I think this takes a big step towards that. And if we can try and achieve that through a seamless interface, I think it makes a really big difference. So thanks for sharing that insight.
So besides reading data, what's the posting like? So can you post through?
There are functionalities. So some of the APIs you can write back. So if you build the API, some of it you can write back, delete. Also, if there is, so let's say you have a data set, you can also push it to an external table, automate it, push to external table. So you can also push data out. It's not usually what we use it for, but I mean, let's say for whatever reason you do have a model and you need to offload that data somewhere, you can do that onto an external table. But traditionally we're using this to provide data. Right. If we look at this that Lloyd's showing, it's just to give you an example of how it works. It's a little bit technical, but it's just to give you an idea. Right here you've got the base views, you connect that to the system. We call it a base view because we want to make sure you understand we're not copying the data. We're not doing ETL, we're not copying the data, so we connect to this, and this could be 3 data warehouses, so it's fine. Or it could be SAP, 2 data warehouses, or it could be whatever it may be. It could be AWS Azure. We make those base views, then we bring that, we make a unified view. Now you might be like, what's the point of this? Think about your Ralph Kimball. If you connect to a data warehouse, you would have facts dimensions. So this could be your facts, this which is a header and lines table, this is your dimensions, which is made up of customers or whatever. And then we get a complete view, whether it be Citizen 360 view, or whether it be total sales, or total revenue, or home loan applications, whatever it may be, that's your model. Now to the end user, what you see in blue is what we're exposed to. So they come here with either their reporting or BI tools, they connect, they see, ooh, there's all my customer 360. Ooh, here's my sales revenue. They just connect it. They don't need to worry about doing all of that self-service that was sold a year ago. They literally connect to this data marketplace. And again, these systems might be from Division A. This might be from Division B. So again, it's making that unified glass or pane where everyone can connect to the data marketplace and make use of it. And again, I'm just using BI Portal as an example, We can use other connections, whether it be REST web service, to connect to mobile web users, to connect to enterprise application systems, and make that data available. All right, so there is different ways. And then once you make that data available, this here on the end, this is just tools to make managing it easier. And there is functionality we haven't really spoken about. So for example, I've mentioned data caching. Data caching just allows us, if we leave it normal, real time, it will go get all the data at real time. You click now, it will go fetch it. But now you might say to me, you know what, this system's coming from SAP, I don't want you to hit it often. We can cache just this leg, or we can cache this whole model. You tell us where you want to cache it, we'll do it. If we just cache this leg will be real time, this will not be this will be high evolved. Or we can cache that every hour, every 24 hours, you tell us. All right, but the point is, even if you cache this every hour and 100 queries hit that, you're saving from the source systems 99 queries that would have hit them. All right, your tier 1, if it's a tier 1 system. Query optimizer, again, this query optimizer, if you ask for 10 columns here and it only comes from that leg, it will make sure it goes to that leg. It won't go and hit this leg. Okay, so that's the query optimizer, ensuring that we only hit the systems that we need to get the data at the time, all right, if we haven't cached. Scheduling tasks has just got a scheduler to help us manage all the caching. The security on the bottom there, we've spoken about it. Anything that comes through this layer, we can say who has access. We can do role-based access. We can do level, row-level columns. We can say for a specific column they can see it, but we want to obfuscate the data. In other words, just putting stars. You can do all of that. All right. You can do tagging. Then obviously there's governance. So we didn't focus too much on that. This comes with the data catalog. Data catalog meaning that people can log on, right, and they can say what data is available. Then they can say, I want customer data. We'll say these are the customer models. They can look at the metadata and they can see 20 columns. Now, if you're an admin, you'll have access to everything. If you're not an admin, you'll be able to see that metadata and then you can request access to the data. So you can request, someone approves it, you then get access. So again, that's also now breaking down the barriers of where people usually sign a lot of forms to get access to data. We can simplify it by saying, here's a data catalog, it's a shopping cart, you can go through it, you can see, oh, customer data, it can have glossary there, glossary meaning, we can say this is customer data that will give you revenue by numbers, by month, this is the type of values that you can get out of it. Obviously what you're happy to share with everyone in the organization. Then they can request access or not request access. Once they got access, they can use it for whatever they wish. And even once you give them access, it's up to you to say full, partial, only see for their division, only see these columns, it's up to you. All right, these are all access levels that you can set up, and you can go from there. Monitoring and auditing, it's your favorite thing. I'm sure you guys can agree. Someone's eventually going to come along and say, who has access to what? Mm-hmm. That's what it is. And then, you always get the auditors is like, all right, you're telling me they have access to it. How can you show me what they've used in the last month? It's in there also, all right? So you can see all the queries that are being hit and what they hit by user, all right? Because it's one thing to tell auditors this is what's set up. I just find they never believe me. So I don't know if it's my face or they just never believe me. So we always can say, look at the audit results. All right, development lifecycle management, we didn't actually talk about that. But it's got a unique functionality where this is actually one of the beautiful things about Denodo. Lloyd, pleasure here. You only pay for production. Right?
Yeah,
So we can actually have dev, QA, pre-prod, pre-prod, pre-prod. I don't know, you can go crazy. Most of our customers only have dev, QA, prod. But we do get a few customers that want to have 10 devs per division. I don't know. If they're willing to spend on the hardware, it's fine, but you can do it if you want. Okay, but what is nice about that is you can have a dev QA product. It comes with something called Solution Manager that allows you to promote all your content through the environments, check in, check out, integrate with GitHub, version control, all of that. All right. Yeah.
So do CI/CD straight through pipeline.
Yeah, go through, do everything. What is nice about it is, let's say you have a working model in production. For whatever reason, let's say you did all your tests, but it hits production, it's not good. You can revert the changes to the previous version, go back to QA, test your stuff. All right. And it's really, because we're not moving or storing the data, it's that easy. Whereas in the data warehouse, if you went and added a few columns, loaded the data, and it's not balancing, we're not going to be able to just roll back unless you made a backup of the database. All right. But even
Yeah, but that on its own is posing complications. Because I mean, the fact of the matter is you can sit with customer data across all these sources at the bottom. Customer count, customer count, customer count, customer count, customer count. Then what you do is you do the visualization. And when I was in the bank, we struggled for about a year to decide what's the customer count within the bank. Because of the complexity of not necessarily complexity, but agreeing on what's the rules to apply.
look, I don't have a silver bullet.
So,
Once you agree on the rules,
Yeah.
they provide you a way to
well, so
But what
Yeah.
I'm saying is
yes, no,
you can expose it though. So,
technically a very cool tool,
yes,
commercially a very dangerous tool,
if not done.
if not done correctly.
yes, yes, yeah, and that's why it's. I mean, so we had the user group yesterday, and this came up where one of the users in Santon, they were trying to work out unique customers, and it so happened that John Smith with a birthday, there were two of them. And there was, what's the chances? Oh, it wasn't John Smith, but exactly the same name, same birthday, and they were trying to use exactly so. And then they thought, well, these I've got to be the same, but they weren't. There were two.
So from an architectural perspective, it's an interesting one, because you've got various choices. So, I mean, we've got a Snowflake, we've just implemented Snowflake now. A lot of this, I can do on the Snowflake warehouse. But I do understand if you sit with a big legacy environment, this is a very good option. But then you have to be very careful in terms of your implementation. That's just my
Yeah. So, and that we have a use case where we're feeding from Snowflake. So Denodo is then the data factory.
Yeah, you can feed it from anything.
Yeah,
You can feed it
yes,
from
yes.
Azure, from
Yes.
any database.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't implement this unless you've got your data governance in place first.
Spot.
Yeah. Otherwise, you will.
Otherwise, you're going to
Maybe-
create. But that's not
Privacy
relevant.
won't be
It's not relevant to this tool. It's relevant to all tools.
Yeah.
That's data visualization. That's what
Yes,
I'm saying.
yes,
I'm-
yes.
I'm not aiming it at this tool because I think it's just a general
Yes,
practice.
yes,
general
yeah.
practice common domain.
Yes. Are we?
But it's very good. It's, I think it's a very cool.
Yeah.
Something we
What's
must
nice?
look at.
What's nice about this is if you decouple in your systems to be able to be more agile, move faster. This means you don't have to really look at your warehouse every day, which is the reason we're looking at it from Turvest, because we're changing specific application.
Yeah.
And that means as soon as I've implemented the application, the data's there immediately. Otherwise, you implement the application, then you still have to go back, and then people don't get data for 6 months on a new app, and then they don't want to change their applications.
Yeah.
And it's a better point. You could have your data warehouse, and your data warehouse can be in Snowflake. Your application comes out, we can bring that data, supplement it until you get everything running in Snowflake. We actually have a very good presentation from yesterday on how this works with Snowflake. Same thing, they bring all the data, put it in Snowflake, but then they still have that question of saying, how do we make that data marketplace? Because again, they're using Ralph Kimball methodology, they connect, they don't want the end user to be able to guess where the or what to combine, as an example. But I'll share that with you, you might be interested.
I'll look at it.
Sure, it was very good. They use it for data marketplace, but also from there they use it even to make another play area within Snowflake to expose more data.
You see, Snowflake's got a work group, so you can create multiple work groups, which you are separating your data warehouse from your actual, let's call it processing, and you can create multiple processes, which virtually means that you can create multiple warehouses now. You don't have one warehouse anymore like in the old days. So it actually creates you with that system 360 views, and you can create almost that as separate virtual, let's call it,
Within, yeah.
work groups. But I don't want to punt. I mean, there's lots of tool sets out there, so I don't want to punt the tool set. The point I just want to make is that I think, it's a very good tool set if you're busy with, and let me tell you, there's very few companies in this country and in the world that got their warehouse sorted.
Yeah. I think there's zero.
I think Everyone that says they are probably and the ones that is, I think the ones that says they have is lying probably.
Yeah.
The fact is that it's going to take a long time.
Yes.
Until all of that is sorted out, I do definitely see a place for this.
Yeah.
Good.
So I want to ask you something, for example, back to that question of warehousing, and let's say you have different companies, which are having different products. In the case of Standard Bank, you have that layer.
Yeah.
So one customer may have many products across different legal entities as well. And the updates of that customer, for example, in terms of their marital status, so for example, or residential address, could be different because of the timing of updates. Now, how the Denodo can be used for call it alignment of the source data to push back to the owners of the source system to say, well, you have this customer, but now these key attributes of this customer are different. So to push back to the original system owners to say, review this because
and update it.
We have another company that has differences. It could be also differences from Home Affairs, for example, on disease status.
Yes, exactly.
Now we have this customer that is notified status first to us before Home Affairs actually first.
Yes.
So Home Affairs may be not correct, being used by other legal entity, but we are being first entry as, let's say, bank that we know about that. So how do we use the Denodo to make that pushing back to other systems, almost like that maybe web services, whatever, that we say, how do we make sure that the whole loop is being closed?
So that's a Louis question. I know it's done. There is cultural challenges. I mean, that's exactly what's going on with UK government. So you'll have challenges around, right, I'm pushing that back. Does the other department support what I'm pushing back? Yes. So you've got a cultural challenge regardless of the technology. The big reason why the department chose Denodo was they had 13 data warehouses. They had a project that had just continually carried on. 80% of their budget was just keeping the lights on, and it was getting worse and worse. And so they just got Denodo to act as a librarian. Where's the data? How can we now sort it out? And actually, from a kind of a role-based point of view, I think they had something like 200,000 roles in terms of accessing the data. So just on that level, it was, a minefield. So I think it's a very pragmatic approach. It's a way of finding where the problems are, exposing them, but as you were saying, Denodo's not is part of a solution. Maybe it's them feeding into a Salesforce or whatever it is into a prompt. Please update this, and this. So.
Yeah, it can expose the differences, but then it's up to people to act.
I think it is up to people to act, but I also say to people, take a step back. Forget about. We must remember every organization will run a specific system, and certain systems you should not update directly. To give an example, SAP or Oracle, you pay them a certain amount of fee, and part of that is they give you support. But part of that support agreement is you will not update their tables, their system tables.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is we can expose it, we can say this is where there's differences, and we can make the different divisions available and control all access. But I would avoid, we can probably update, but I would avoid updating system tables. It's better to say these need to be changed, they need to confirm, and they need to do the change in the system, especially when it comes to ERP systems, core banking systems. We don't want to update and you lose support from your vendor or
No, that I agree.
So our flagship use case is Intel. So Intel, 22 of their 23 business units use Denodo. part of the reason, I mean, they got multiple use cases about chips into Dell computers or whatever, but one of them was an HR use case. So what was happening is they were acquiring new companies, and then on day one, you know, maybe because they're an SAP house, maybe they acquired someone with NetSuite or Workday or something. Now, the key thing when you're acquiring a company is, well, I think the most important thing is the people, maybe the products there, but the people. So what they did is they exposed an application so that payroll was there, so that on day one, they could make sure they paid that new entity. And then over time, they could then migrate that Workday into their HR system. So I think we've got a kind of write-up around that, but Alberto Pan, our CTO, he talks quite well around that, around how you do that, both from a technology point of view, but also culturally as well, because you know, you're touching an SAP system, as we know. That's yeah.
Now, just another question. Let's say you have a reference data that you need, you know, for the model, you know, that you have to get unified views. You let's say need reference data. Would it be better to use it, to create it in one of the systems? And let's say, what if every system has different reference data? And then do you then create that in Excel somewhere, you know, and then use it as a like one unified view for all systems? Because not a single system has reference data of other systems. How do you go around that? You know, how do you?
Look, there's no answer to that, but the Excel does make me, you know, shook.
I think Alex did it on purpose. You know, that was like, yeah.
I know, and we come from a financial perspective. No, look, reference data, as far as possible, you always want to try and have it from a system, because it has a UI, it has a user interface that controls what is entered there. Excel is our extreme last case, and will be, if we had to use Excel, I'm like, you can put it in there once a year, I don't want you to touch it again. And when you do it, let me know, and then we'll check everything again. Because the problem with Excel is it's open to human error. Whereas if you get reference data from SAP, Oracle, Sage, whatever, it's got a user interface, it's got certain methodology rules, it checks the data, writes it in, any master, whether it be customer, vendor, or any other type of reference data. The system controls and checks it, and at least there's that first level. But yes, we can connect to any reference data, Excel, non-Excel, API. I'm probably leaning to more API when it comes from a system. But yes, we can connect, we can bring it through, and we can expose it. And you can get it from multiple systems and try and get a clean version of it. But yeah, I'm just wary of it from Excel, purely because of human error, not because we can't do it. It's always human error, and what's the quality we can get out.
I think, just on an initial question, if there is a conflict between our two sources on what should be the same data basically, so it's updated on one system but not in the other, I'm guessing you could set up some sort of survivorship model in your transforms, right? To say, if I get a conflict here, I'm going to prefer the VIN from that source over that one. And, okay, cool.
Yes, yeah, you could put some survivorship, or at least say priority, saying, if there is a difference, we prefer this one versus that one.
Yeah, that's the little bubble there. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
And then I have another question. Let's say you want, of course, to expose now the data for the machine learning and for data scientists.
Yeah.
And then you want to create, call it a feature store. Do you then create a feature store, and that is like separate environment for data scientists to use, or doesn't matter? Like it's kind of part of whatever is there, So do you have what is the best practice? Do you keep it separate, or do you keep it as part of this?
So one thing I didn't explain, so I've obviously explained it like this, but inside Denodo, you can make either different areas. We can either use roles to separate who sees what, number one, or inside there, when you're inside Denodo and you're designing, it looks like we're designing a database, and you can design multiple, but it's not really that, it's a virtual thing. So when a user connects, you could have what looks like a data warehouse / specifically for the data scientist. You could have another one connected, looks specifically like for sales related data. But in reality, it's not, it's just virtual. So you can make that data available. This does work very nice with data scientists in the sense that you can choose again. You can either say, here's all the data available for data scientists, or you could literally give them their own area, give them full control, and say, you can go and combine whatever data and use it. It works very nice with data science because what we usually find is data scientists, we would like them to spend 80% of their time modeling, because that's where they're going to give us value, right? And 20% getting data. We find it's the other way around. I think you know already. They spend 80% of the time looking for the data, getting getting it all right, 20% actually modeling. Now, if we're telling you, you can allow them to go into their own area, have full access where they can say, I want data from here, connect it, make a model, expose it, then, and then they can use that into their models, they can come back and adapt. And again, you can do that in dev QA. By the time you get to prod, you obviously need to put all your quality things in place to make sure that it's tested and gone through the CAD process and everything to right. I'm just worried about time. We do need to stop. We do need to get on.
Who would have thought Denodo would have been better than driving a Land Rover?
Yeah.